Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brian Eads, and this is episode 9 of Easy Listening with Brian Eads. This is episode 9. I apologize for keeping you guys waiting for a little over a month, and that's simply because I do have a full-time job to tend to, but I'm here, so without any further interruptions, let's get into it. Before I go any further, would very much like to say thank you for the support of this podcast. And where you can find this podcast is on Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Podbean, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and soon to be coming Pandora and iHeartRadio. As you all could probably guess, this is my first podcast episode, which will feature a recap of live sports, such as Major League Baseball, NHL. I'll recap a few NASCAR races, as well as the Major League Baseball standings, as well as horse racing. Here are some scores from Major League Baseball last night. Tampa Bay defeated the New York Yankees 10-5. Toronto took 2 games from the Philadelphia Phillies. They won the first one 3-2, and then went the nightcap 9-8. The Chicago White Sox blanked the Detroit Tigers 9-0. Houston wins on the road 10-8 over Colorado. Shane Bieber continues his marvelous pitching as Cleveland shuts out Pittsburgh 2-0. The Dodgers continue to be red hot with a 6-1 over Seattle. Minnesota defeats Milwaukee 7-1. Boston upends Baltimore 7-1. St. Louis defeats Cincinnati 5-4. San Francisco defeats the LA Angels 10-5. Oakland continues to be red hot after a 5-1 win, and in 10 innings last night, San Diego would defeat Texas 8-7. With the completion of last night's games, let's take a look at the updated division standings for each division in Major League Baseball. Atlanta continues to lead the NL East with a 14-11 record. They have a 1.5 game lead over Miami, a 2.5 game lead over the New York Mets, a 3 game lead over Philadelphia, as well as Washington. In the NL Central, Chicago Cubs continue to pace the division with a record of 16-8, a 4 game lead over St. Louis, a 4.5 game lead over Milwaukee, 5.5 over Cincinnati, and 10.5 over Pittsburgh. In the NL West, the Dodgers continue to lead with a 19-8 record. San Diego is 4 games back. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 5.5 back, as well as the Colorado Rockies are 5.5 back. The San Francisco Giants are 8.5 back. In the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays are 17-9 with a half-game lead over the Yankees, 3.5 over the Toronto Blue Jays, as well as the Orioles with a 4.5 game lead. The Boston Red Sox trail the division by 9 games. In the AL Central, Minnesota continues to lead the way with 17-9 record. Cleveland is a half game back. The White Sox are 2 back. Kansas City is 6.5 back, as well as the Detroit Tigers. In the AL West, Oakland continues to lead the way at 18-8. Houston is second with a 15-10 record. Texas is 7 games back. The LA Angels are 10 games back. Seattle brings up the rear with a 10.5 game disadvantage. Now it's time to recap the last 9 races, including the All-Star race for NASCAR. Kevin Harvick over the last 9 races has 3 wins, 8 top 5s, and 8 top 10s to go with 7 stage wins. Denny Hamlin has 1 win of his own, 5 top 5s and 6 top 10s with 3 stage wins of his own. Brad Keselowski has 1 win, 5 top 5s, and 7 top 10s to go with 4 stage wins. Chase Elliott comes off of his 2nd win in the last 9 races to go with 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s, including 5 stage wins. Joey Logano has 3 top 5s and 7 top 10s and no stage wins. Ryan Blaney has 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s in the last 9 with 3 stage wins. Martin Truex has 6 top 5s and 7 top 10s and no stage wins. Alex Bowman has 2 top 10s with no stage wins. Austin Dillon has 1 win, which came at Texas, to go with 2 top 10s. Cole Custer surprised everybody with his win at Kentucky and 4 top 10s to go with the 1 stage win. Eric Almirola has 1 top 5 and 7 top 10s in the last 9, including 1 stage win. Clint Bowyer has 1 top 10 and 1 stage win over the last 9 races. Kurt Busch has 1 top 5, 5 top 10s, and no stage wins in the last 9. His brother Kyle Busch, who is the defending series champion, has 5 top 5s and 6 top 10s with 1 stage win, but continues to remain winless on the 2020 season. William Byron has 2 top 10s with a stage win at the Brickyard 400. Matt DiBenedetto continues to surprise everybody with 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in the last 9 races. Jimmie Johnson comes off of a 4th place finish at Daytona to go with 1 top 10. Eric Jones has 1 top 5, 2 top 10s in the last 9 races. The last 3 drivers I've mentioned have no stage wins nor regular season wins. Bubba Wallace has 2 top 10s. Christopher Bell has 1 top 10. Tyler Reddick continues to impress as a rookie with 3 top 10s in the last 9. Michael McDowell has 2 top 10s in the last 9. Chris Buescher has 1 top 5, which came in the last race at Daytona. Matt Kenseth finished 2nd at Indy, which is his only top 5 in the last 9 races. And newcomer Kaz Grala, who took over for Austin Dillon at Daytona because of Dillon testing positive for COVID-19, actually finished 7th at Daytona. With 1 race left to go before the chase for the Cup cutoff and for the playoffs, let's take a look at who is in and who has a chance to get into the field of 16 when it starts at Darlington on Labor Day weekend. These 10 drivers are already in by virtue of having at least 1 win. Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Austin Dillon, like I mentioned before, as well as Cole Custer. These next 6 drivers are in contention for the playoffs, but still have a little bit of work to do. Eric Almirola, Clint Bowyer, Kurt and Kyle Busch, William Byron, and Matt DiBenedetto. The 2 drivers that are probably still have a technically a bit of a shot is Jimmie Johnson, who is in his final season, as many of you may know, as well as Eric Jones. Jimmie Johnson is 25 points below the cutoff. Eric Jones is 35 points below the cutoff. Now it's time to get into the bubble of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which take place both in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Last night the New York Islanders finished off their series with the Washington Capitals as they win the series 4-1. In the late game last night, Dallas defeated Calgary to advance as they win their series 4-2. Tonight, Montreal and St. Louis, who is the defending league champion, look to stave off elimination and possibly force a Game 7 against Philadelphia and Vancouver, respectively. The teams that are already into the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs include Boston, the New York Islanders, like I had mentioned, the Colorado Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Knights, Tampa Bay Lightning, and like I mentioned before, the Dallas Stars. If you paid attention to my Facebook post earlier in the week, I did mention that I would possibly mention horse racing. And for those of you that don't remember, back in June 20th, we had the first leg of the Triple Crown, which for this year, because of COVID-19, was the Belmont Stakes. And the winner of that race was Tiz the Law. The runner-up was Dr. Post, and the third place horse was Max Player. The second leg of the Triple Crown will be the annual Run for the Roses, which was supposed to run the first Saturday of May, but is now the first Saturday of September on Labor Day weekend, as Tiz the Law will look to win the second leg and have a chance at the Triple Crown on October 3rd at the Preakness Stakes in Baltimore, Maryland. Just a couple news and notes for you guys before I end this episode. For those of you that live in the state of Virginia, have probably already found out that the fall sports schedule has been postponed until early February due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And also, as I mentioned earlier, with Tiz the Law winning the Belmont Stakes, he would also win the Travers at Saratoga, New York, which typically in the past has been monikered as the Graveyard of Champions. But for today, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast. If you happen to like what you listen to, whether it's episode 9 or any of the prior episodes, please feel free to share, get the word out to your friends, family, whoever you think enjoys a good sports podcast. And I would really appreciate us to get as many ears on this podcast as possible. And I can't do that without the support of you guys listening on whatever your favorite platform is. That'll do it for me on this episode. I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Be sure to tune in next time when I will have a special guest joining me on the podcast. So be sure to tune in next time for episode 10, because you never know who the guest might be or what we might talk about. So I encourage you guys to tune in, and hopefully we'll have some fun.